Hi, if you want to learn how to utilize online video education to the fullest, stay with me. Hi, and welcome to the Uncon School at howtobecomeaprofessor.com, the place to learn from proven professors and experts. I'm your host Stefan, and today you will learn how to utilize online video education to the fullest. Personally, there are three things that I just love about video lessons in the internet. First, as an educator, you can reach theoretically millions of people from all around the world. Secondly, also from the perspective of an educator and teacher, online education makes it possible to monitor and evaluate exactly the progress of your students, and as a consequence, make essential adjustments to the material more easy. And last but not least, from the perspective of the learner, you can learn anytime, anywhere, and at any pace you want. If you agree with me, or better, if you disagree, maybe our guest can change your mind in the course of the next 30 minutes. His name is Arial Braunstein, co-founder of Anomia.com, an educational video platform that features short video lessons from great teachers everywhere. Arial, he's the co-founder and CEO of Anomia.org. He has a long track record of building consumer software and hardware businesses, including gaming platforms, e-commerce websites, and consumer electronics. Arial was also co-founder and head of products at Pure Digital Technologies, which developed the iconic flip video line of pocket camcorders and was acquired by Cisco in 2009 for a very considerable amount. And then he was head of products for Cisco Consumer Products, where he oversaw flip video as well as networking devices and software from Linksys, Pure Networks, and other consumer brands. Previously, Arial ran Interact Inc., a gaming platform startup out of Israel, and led product development for FamilyWonder.com, which was later sold to Sega of Japan. Arial, thank you very much for sharing your expertise, your awesome expertise as a serial entrepreneur today on online video education. And first and foremost, I'd like to ask you, why did you start Anomia.org in the first place? And why do you think does the internet need another educational video platform?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my experiences with other students and teachers around the world. A small correction, it's Anomia.com, not .org.
Or, excuse me. And how do you pronounce your actually German?
I know it's a German pronunciation. Yeah. The origin is German. So I believe that in German it would be pronounced Braunstein, but I pronounce it Braunstein here in the US.
Yeah, in German it's Braunstein.
Braunstein.
That's right. But it's Braunstein.
Right.
Okay,
that would be the German pronunciation.
All right, to make it clear, guys, Anomia.com, that's the website, and the CEO and co-founder is Arial Braunstein. Okay, there we go.
That's not no sensitivities on my part. So back to your question. So after, as many of your viewers might know, flip video was a line of camcorders that really sort of revolutionized in how we brought video to the level of everyday consumer, that we simplified. And after 2 years with Cisco, it was shut down. No hard feelings, but there was still a taste, at least in my mouth, of wanting more, wanting to further simplify video and further address challenges around video in other fields. And as a parent, I was intrigued about education. I am not an educator, by no means, and I had a little window into the world of education through my own son. And when you start viewing the world of education, you notice a lot of things that are broken, right? And I think that that's true about many other fields. But what's unique about education is the fact that those broken things have gigantic impact on people's lives. So as an entrepreneur, the opportunity to change people's lives, the opportunity to affect people's lives positively is very motivating. So I wanted to take what we've learned from Flip about how to take something complex, simplify it, make it accessible, make it fun, and apply it to something that has more profound impact. And education was one of these opportunities. So for 5 months, I just immersed myself in education. I took any meeting I can take. I took any any school that would take me, I would shadow teachers, I would buy them coffee and interview them and understand what's working, what's not working. Spent a lot of time with also parents and students. And one thing that became very apparent to me is the fact that video is here to stay in education. Video is becoming this major force in education, in not only how we try to teach now, but how we will really teach in the future.
Yeah.
And another thing that became very apparent is that none of the existing solutions work. Teachers are sort of forcing existing tools to do things that were not designed to do. And it doesn't mean anything bad about these tools. It just means that they were not designed for education. And video is one of these things where the solutions for video exist for many years, but none of them is appropriate for education. None of them is doing a good job for what teachers were telling me they're trying to do. And because of it, it prevented many teachers from participating in this movement. It created a lot of fears with heads of schools and schools in general about having their teachers do these things with commercial platforms that have ads and they're blocked in many places and causing IT challenges. And it just highlighted all the shortfalls of these existing platforms and highlighted an opportunity for me to take my experience and my co-founder's experience, Scott Cabot. Also, he was the marketing brand marketer behind Flip Video.
Right.
And together we felt, how do we take what we've learned and address a big issue in education?
Okay, awesome. I mean, what were the most common and mentioned problems among educators that you identified and are trying to solve with Anomia.com?
So it's interesting. It's an interesting question because part of what we did was very informal, right? You take a teacher to a cup of coffee and you just let them share all their frustrations and concerns and all that. And that's great. But we also did it a little bit more formally. We did a project called the Video Revolution Project. And if you go to our website, to the Explore section of our website, you will see on the top right corner, there is a feature for the Video Revolution Project. And what we did is we've interviewed 12 leading teachers around the world who are using video in innovative ways. And we try to extract from their stories about what brought them to start using video, what mistakes they've done, what feedback did they receive, what made them more successful, and what advice do they have for teachers who want to start. So we wanted to try and find threads that go through these stories about how video is used. And one of the things that we wanted to maybe demystify in a way or simplify is the notion that there is only one way of using video in education, as if there is an authority out there that says this is how you should use video, and there isn't. And there are companies, individuals, organizations out there who try to claim certain standards around flip teaching or blended learning. And I'm not saying that their approach is wrong. I'm just saying that it causes fears with teachers who are just beginning, because the proposition for them is all or nothing. And I don't want it to be all or nothing. I wanted to take baby steps. I wanted to start. I wanted to try, see the impact, and adjust it based on the needs of their own students. Every class is different. Every teacher is different. Every school is different. Every curriculum is different. So you can't have one methodology, right, that works for everybody. And that's what we were trying to highlight with the Video Revolution Project, because every one of these teachers has a unique approach that they swear by, and yet every one of them works, right? And that's what I think that other teachers should take out of it, which is there is no one way, and you should evolve in your own perception, your own understanding how it would benefit you. The common thread is that integrating video increases engagement, increases productivity for the teacher and for the students, increases the depth in which teacher and class can dive into the curriculum, and increases satisfaction of the teacher, because they can now achieve more with their class and affect students outside of their class, which is huge benefit for many teachers.
Okay, awesome. Well, you mentioned very important catchphrases such as e-learning, blended learning, and flipped teaching. Can you demystify those terms? In what way are they connected? In what way are they different from each other?
So first of all, again, I will place the disclaimer. I am not an educator. And I know that there are educators out there who wrote entire papers on a proper way of defining and quantifying the benefits of each one of these. And my approach is more of an outsider looking in and saying, look, it could be different. It could be potentially better if you look at it more practically. I look at teachers like I look at consumers. They are trying to achieve a goal, and I want to make them successful at that. The nuances, sometimes I look at it as a continuum. It's not a sort of discrete ways of teaching, but sort of gradients of different things. So blended learning is a general sense of integrating technology into your teaching. So a portion of your teaching is done with a computer or a device of some sort, usually online, that provides additional benefits to your students, and therefore you can approach your teaching slightly different. You can create different stations in your classroom. You can divide your class into a lecture time and computer time. There are different ways of doing it, but usually blended learning refers to the experience of using technology in the classroom in school. Flip teaching is at the end of that continuum where the use of technology is at home. So the term flipping something on its head, and by the way, it has nothing to do with flip video, right? It's a general term. Flipping the classroom means use time at home to learn new things, prime the students with new concept, so your class time is more productive because your students already know the concept, and you're just trying to now have deeper conversations about the meaning of things and run experiments and all these things that teachers really love to do, right? So it increases productivity because your students are truly primed with that content. Now, some would point, wait a minute, there's no difference between that and books. Students have been reading books before class for years, centuries, right? So what's the difference? The only difference is the fact that now you're using more advanced technology that can actually measure your engagement, measure your actions. And video could be a medium that creates more engagement with students. So theoretically, it can be more effective than reading a dry chapter in a textbook, right? So a lot of it is just recycled methodology that was used for years, but now with new technology, it can have a little new way of looking at it. And many universities are already using it before K-12 education even began using it, right? So a lot of it is recycled approaches that now are applied in new ways to achieve new goals.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for clearing this up from your very pragmatic and practical perspective. You have been now working on Anomia for a couple of months and years, I guess, and also when we count in the incubation phase. Based on that experience, what are, in your opinion, the advantages and pitfalls when using online videos for educational purposes?
I think that different teachers will find different ways of answering it. I will try to give my sort of perspective from above, what I see in general. I think the advantage that you get from integrating video is, as I said before, it's engagement. It's fascinating to see how certain teachers, they don't create videos for the purpose of teaching their own students. They create some of them, and it's a small minority, but it shows you the extreme to which it can add benefit. For example, Robert Adut, he has a channel on YouTube called Yay Math, if I'm not mistaken. And what's interesting about what he does is that he records all of his lessons in class. And when you ask him, he says he doesn't even use these videos with his students. The value that he finds is the fact that by bringing a camera into the classroom, by letting his students participate in the process of thinking about how to teach a concept and how to think about the fact that other students may benefit from them studying this subject, he increases their own engagement. He changes the conversation from just being about a boring subject to an exciting opportunity to form together a way of teaching other students. And the students know that what they're doing in class is going to be YouTube, and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of other students will see them learning it. So he changed the conversation from being a boring passive experience to a very active experience, right? That's one extreme. Take other examples is, for example, Keith Hughes. Mr. Hughes teaches social science, US history and world history. And he also does exercise where he is sort of the mad professor of history, and he does these amazing lessons. But then he also activates his own students to mimic his style and create their own lessons, right? So he does create these lessons for his own students, and it's a way for them to recap and rehash things they spoke about in class. But then he activates his own students in creating their own lessons in that style of being crazy and being creative and activating different part of the brain in learning something that could be very script-like, but now enacting it and memorizing it through other activities. And that's a great activity also. Mm-hmm. There are those teachers who are very methodical about it, and they're doing it very much like a lecture. Right. But now what recording video provides is the ability to organize it in a concise way so students can follow it step by step and rewind. Right. One of the favorite stories that a teacher by the name of Tyler Dwight, talented I think he is a PhD student at MIT, teaches high school students. And one topic that I recommend for everybody to watch that as part of Video Revolution. He talks about a subject that was very difficult for his students, how to visualize molecules. And he was using these soda cans and straws to try and simulate a three-dimensional structure. Mm-hmm. And year after year, the scores that his students would show at the end of the year around that subject were not great. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was not great. Mm-hmm. And then he decided, if it's not going to get any better, I might as well just put it in a video and let them study it in a video and use that time to study something else. And what he found, although he taught the same thing with the same soda can, with the same thing, it's just the fact that the students could rewind and watch it again and watch it again and watch it again until they get it. Just that ability increases the average score by an unbelievable amount. Mm-hmm. And suddenly they were excelling. The same subject was taught the same way, but he provided a way for them to do it at home in a protected environment where they don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed about raising their hands and asking the question again and again and again. And it just shows you how even the same teaching, when brought to a video format, it's not the video that makes it more useful. It's the fact that it's accessible offline, meaning online, but offline, off the classroom, to do it again in repetition. So different students will take different value out of it. Different teachers will take different value out of it. And I'm sorry, you asked a two-part question. I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned very cool best practices, right? And they really showcase the advantages. Are there also pitfalls that you have seen along the way?
Yes, that was the second part of your question, right? Yes, I think that the biggest pitfall or the biggest mistake that I took out of many teachers is the fact that teachers would like to be perfect. Okay. And there is no way to be perfect. And if you try to be perfect, the amount of energy you put into it will never justify the results. The only way to do it well is to be very natural about it. A teacher in front of their classroom can make a mistake on the whiteboard and they would never hesitate to just erase it, admit to the fact that they made a mistake, and move on. Mm-hmm. When you record yourself in video, there is a sense that you're setting it in stone in a way. And you're afraid of the fact that you're documenting the fact that you might have made a mistake. Mm-hmm. It's okay to make mistakes. Most times, students appreciate the fact that you made a mistake. It makes you more human. Right. And the fact that they can trace back how you identified you made a mistake. And you can correct yourself. So it shows humility. It shows the fact that you are open to the fact that you can make mistakes and they can make mistakes. And it's okay to correct your mistakes. And I think that's a very human characteristic that I think that teachers should resist the urge to be perfect. And then suddenly lesson creation becomes much more fun, less stressful, less time consuming, and more useful to your own students. I would say that's the main issue that I see from teachers again and again and again. Another thing that I see that teachers are afraid of is, and it's along the same line, which is, it's not only they want to be perfect, they are afraid that with the visual stimulation that students are used to, with MTV and everything they find on the web, they will never be able to match up to that. They will never be able to live up to that level of stimulation and production value. Right. And part of our goal with Anomia is to make the teacher look sharp, to make the teacher look smart. And we do that by providing sort of state-of-the-art tools. So I think that using the right tools will help teachers to not look underwhelming in what they do. But don't try and be perfect, and don't try to be MTV. teachers can become, teachers over time are extremely resourceful. And if they're really having fun with it, they can do things that are unbelievable. Look at the Green Brothers, or with their multiple channels, or look at Keith Hughes, or teachers doing amazing things that can definitely rival broadcast quality network production. But there's no need for that. It's, if you are an avid one, you really have fun with it, go with it, have fun. But you don't have to. You can have fantastic content that has significant impact on your students without huge bells and whistles. It just stay true to who you are and try to be energetic about it, because that's usually helps.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. One thing that I consistently ask myself as a very enthusiastic consumer of educational videos online is actually the quality. I mean, I receive, right, the entire content because there's video, audio, and also pictures and PowerPoints provided. And actually, I have the feeling that it really replaces the physical experience inside the classroom 100%. What is your take on that? Do you think videos, once they're uploaded on the internet, they make the actual physical experience obsolete?
No, I really don't. I mean, the one fear that I love to dispel time and again is the fact that there are teachers who fear that using video would justify down the road to replace teachers, like as if there is no longer a need for the teacher because all the knowledge in the world is recorded, students can just learn from videos and that's it. It couldn't be further away from the truth. I think that all you do is maybe replacing textbook. You're trying to capture the essence of a concept by recording best explanations by different teachers who might have different approaches of explaining that concept. So now there is basic understanding of the concept. Now true teaching comes, and true conversation, the discourse between a teacher and a student cannot be replaced by a passive unidirectional system. And even training system and interactive, adaptive learning systems, all these kind of systems that provide interaction are just way of reinforcing knowledge. It's not a way of having a conversation.
Right.
And true teaching throughout history had always been about the discourse between students and teachers. And I think that all of this new technology simply frees up time to have better discourse, to have better quality time in the classroom. It's not about replacing classroom or teachers. It's about providing better classroom time and better teachers. That's how I look at it.
Okay, I think one thing that we really need to clear up with the flipped teaching is that the instruction moves now on to home, right? So when you're an instructor or teacher, you're recording your lecture time, right? And the students, the pupils are asked to watch that content that you would teach them during class, right, at home. And as you said before, they are primed for the content, they're prepared, they feel prepared, and then you really can use the time to engage with the students and to solve problems, mathematical problems together, right? And so the pupils can practice everything while you're attending, right, in the physical classroom. And that's the cool thing about flipped teaching, I guess.
Right, but one comment about what you said is that teachers who record their entire lecture,
right?
I mean, that's another mistake that I see.
Okay.
You think that if you record your entire lecture and let your student just watch it at home, it's as effective. And I think it's not as effective. I think a student can listen for 40 minutes, 50 minutes in class to a lecture. I don't think that students can do the same thing at home. There is some energy that is missed, and there's too much distraction at home. I think that if you want students to be successful at consuming information you recorded at home, you have to make it shorter. Our recommendation for teachers is less than 15 minutes. Optimum time is probably less than 10 minutes. So recording an entire lecture, I don't think it translates the same way. You need to be a very unique student, very self-motivated to really sit at home and listen to a 50-minute lecture. It's just a different discipline. It's a different, there isn't the same energy level that you have with your classmates in classroom listening to the professor. It's very different. So my recommendation, shorter than 50 minutes, ideally less than 10. The average piece of content in Anomia is 7 minutes.
Okay, awesome. This leads us to the question I also wanted to ask you in terms of a blueprint for an optimal educational video online. So in terms of length, you already answered optimal between 10 and 15 minutes or even shorter for one single concept. And let's talk about the design, the style of the video. Do you think it's what works better, to see the actual lecturer like giving a presentation, or just to see the screen of a PowerPoint presentation, or maybe using a bamboo stick, this digital board? What is the most engaging way?
So again, the perspective of Anomia is that we're trying to create the best solution for the vast majority of students.
Right.
Knowing that there are different kind of learners, students, you want to have diversity of content to address the needs of these students. We believe that diversity of tools generate diversity of content address the needs of diversity of students. So different tools will give you different types of results. And I don't think that one type of results is necessarily better than another. I think that there are students, and we've done studies that show that some students really appreciate the organized, slow-paced, slideware lecture. And there are those who get completely disengaged, and they're looking for the professor who just dances and be energetic. And the best example, again, for me is Keith Hughes, who is very animated and does amazing things, and students remember new concept because of the tools that he gives them by acting out and by giving them analogies and all these things that you wouldn't do in a structured, very organized lecture. So I think different teachers, my recommendation is just stay true to who you are. Right. Just know that some students might benefit from different types of teaching. One tool that we provide, so Anomia has a tool, a free iPad tool called Anomia Teach. It's a tool for creating lectures. And one of the tools we added to Anomia Teach is the ability to record yourself as part of your lecture. And I think that recording yourself is a very interesting tool because it adds a different dimension of facial expressions and hand gestures that your voice might not tell the entire story. And there are teachers who are very comfortable with it and they do great things with it. There are teachers who add sign language to it. There are teachers who use props while they have slideware, they also hold props, right? So it adds this extra dimension. And there are teachers who are become overly self-aware and distracted because there is camera on them, and that's fine. So don't do it, or practice until you get comfortable with it. I just think that different teachers would find benefit in different things, and I think different subjects might be taught better with different tools. So unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer, this is what works. I have an answer that every teacher has a best way for teaching for them. I would recommend for teachers to stretch themselves and push the envelope about what kind of things they can do, because my guess they can do more than they think. They just need to push themselves and to try, and to, there's a little element of risk, right? You try something new and it works or it may not work, and that's okay if it doesn't work. Try it again or give up on that approach and try a different approach.
Okay, awesome. So Anomia.com who is the target group of Anomia.com?
So Anomia right now is a platform for the integration of video by teachers. Okay. It's applicable to all grades, all languages. There is nothing that limits it for how it's used. The area that we try to saturate initially more than others is STEM within high school. But we have plenty of content outside of high school and outside of STEM that is just picked up by teachers. We have early childhood education, we have higher education, we have lots of English language, we have other languages that are being taught. We have other topics around how to teach, teachers using our platform to teach other teachers how to teach. So I think it's used everywhere. We targeted it toward teachers initially and toward STEM in high school. The long-term goal is to provide a platform that democratizes access to all these great teachers and provide a better solution for students. Right? So we want the end goal, everybody's end goal is simply to have better teaching, right? To have students be better educated and more successful. So that's the end goal. We serve that end goal by providing better tools to teachers.
Okay, that's very inspiring. All right. Ariel, thank you so much. You're so tremendously passionate about education and Anomia.com. It's really inspiring to watch you speak, and only within the last 35 minutes, I learned so much, really, because I always thought there is a blueprint, right, in terms of video education online. But you said there are multiple approaches that work. But do you have one final advice for teachers who are thinking of, or maybe a little bit timid still, in using online education for their courses, for their classes? What can they do to overcome that barrier?
So, I in all of my interviews in the Video Revolution Project, I always ask that question at the end. Yeah. What advice do you have for teachers who want to try but are fearful? And the ubiquitous answer everywhere is just start. Be modest. Start with something small. Think of a simple concept that you can teach, that you would like to try with your students, to teach them using video in class or outside of class. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Just start. Nomia.com has plenty of resources. Even if you don't choose to use Nomia as the platform, use Nomia as a resource to help you understand how other teachers are doing it. We have documents about best practices for using any tool you want for recording video. We have best practices with interviews with teachers about how they teach. We have plenty of resources that can give you the confidence. But eventually, it just starts. Figure out one weekend where you can create one lesson. That's it. See what happens. My guess, you will be overwhelmed with joy about the feedback that you're getting and the kind of engagement and sort of metamorphosis you see with your classroom over one lesson. Most likely, usually when I ask teachers, how long does it take before you're comfortable with it? It's usually around 5 lessons. After you created 5 lessons, it becomes natural. You no longer are stressful about it. So if you can get yourself to the 1, then get yourself to the 5th. After that, I think it will become much more natural.
Okay, awesome, incredible. Thank you so much, Ariel, for taking your time and sharing your rich experience as an entrepreneur, but also as an awesome educator. If you guys are as excited about Ariel and Nomia.com, please check out Nomia.com. It's really worth it. And if you want to learn more essential skills from proven professors and experts, as usual, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at howtobecomeaprofessor.com.